series on Black Lives Matter. For those of you who are coming back, welcome. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. I'm going to give you a quick review of what we've been doing here for the past 6 weeks so far. Our first session was basically Black Lives Matter, let's do something about it. It was sort of an introduction to what we wanted to accomplish here over an 8-week period. The second one went into history, and that we broke up into 2 parts. It was pre-civil rights and post-civil rights. From there, we went on to Living While Black, the human stories. And from there, we went on to racism in real estate, which was last week's episode. And this week, we're going to talk about, so where do we go from here? Now that we've established that there is racism in the country that we live in, that's rampant and has been going on for quite some time, it's systemic. We now have identified that it also is in the industry that we are working in. And now we're going to come up with some solutions. And today we're quite excited because this is the first episode that's really going to be open to everyone. It really is 1 hour of a roundtable discussion where all of us on the committee with Eklund Gomes can speak with all of you who've been joining week after week. And the number of people, by the way, continues to grow every week, which I'm really excited about. One thing I'm not excited about, but I am very motivated by, and I should share with all of you, is I find that the Black Lives Matter movement kind of is a little bit more quiet now, 6 weeks in, compared to when we started 6 weeks ago. And what I'm noticing, because I get lots of emails from people who are downright angry at me for inviting them to have an open discussion like what all of you are doing with us here. And at the onset of this series, I didn't really get them so much. But now I find, and I said earlier to the committee, you know, it's kind of crazy, but as things quiet down with the Black Lives Matter movement and so much else in the world is sort of, you know, occupying our minds and our thoughts, more of those people are coming out and standing up against what we're doing. So it makes me feel sad, but it also motivates me. I thought it was important that I should share that with you guys. So the way that today's series is going to work, or today's episode, as I should say, we're going to have an open discussion on solutions. The committee has spoken, and we've had numerous meetings during the week since we last talked to all of you, and we have come up with a number of solutions ourselves. We also emailed this week to all of those who've registered in advance. If you have any solutions that you wanted to share, and thank you to the many of you who did, you will be speaking first. And then otherwise, everyone has the right or the option rather to raise their hand. If you look at the top right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see 3 dots. When you hit those 3 dots, it'll be like a more button. You will be able to click on raise hand. When you raise your hand, Ellis, who's also on our committee with Eklund Gomes, is going to recognize you, and he's going to let you know that you're up next and that you can present your solution. There's no time limit on this discussion for these solutions other than a 1 hour time limit for the entire episode. So the conversation is just going to sort of free flowly. So without further ado, I'm going to allow someone on the committee first to share a solution. You don't all have to talk at the same time.
I could go first.
Nadia, you can go first. I see you up on my screen.
Thank you. So my solution is just kind of being more involved. When we're servicing different neighborhoods, I think that we could be part of the solution to be involved. Know what makes the neighborhood unique, be familiar with the culture that the neighborhood holds. I could use Brooklyn as an example. Because Brooklyn has block parties during the summer. And these block parties occur in each neighborhood, sometimes block by block. Though this year may be different, the point is that we should be a familiar face when we, recognizable as their neighbor. Agents who show up not just to sell their property, but to talk and offer services and join in community gatherings. It's very easy to say the blanket statement of we're here to help, but we can't help if we can't build trust and know the knowledge of the neighborhood needs. So my solution is to be familiar with the neighborhood bids. That's BID for the business initiative developments. Join the local neighborhood boards and be a resource, even though a business transaction may not sprout from it. The transaction may be just to give knowledge of building wealth through real estate, or even lending your knowledge to what their home improvements can be. So there's this saying that we have in the community of who's invited to the cookout. And the cookout invite is looked at as an embrace, a nod to belonging to a community. So we should all do actions that will forever get us invited to the cookout.
Wow, I'm all about a nice barbecue, so that sounds good to me. But what I hear from you, and the word that I love, is community. I think working in real estate as an industry, we really are often in many different communities. Some of us choose to focus on one community, others focus on many different communities. But I think everything starts in the home, quite frankly, but our homes are part of these communities. So it's all about, being kind to our neighbors. So I think having an understanding of what's going on in our community will help us have a better understanding of solutions that we can come up with to any problem that we have within that community. And if you think about it, the world is made up of a patchwork quilt of communities. If we could all just learn to appreciate one another and each individual community a little bit more, I think we wouldn't have to be having these types of discussions. But I agree with you. A very good solution is to start with your community. Good one, Nadia.
I think to piggyback on Nadia's point and talking about community, obviously a lot of us on this call are real estate professionals and we take these fair housing courses. I think part of the solution is, okay, so that's the law side of things. That's like, as a licensed person, this is what we need to follow. I think part of the solution would be focusing more on like celebrating the diversity. So not only in our jobs, but in our companies. So diversity training, or just talking to our community about all the positives that come out of having a diverse community, a diverse company, all the different backgrounds and the value that we can share with each other from our different experiences. I think there's just so much more we can do rather than sitting on our continuing ed fair housing courses and kind of just clicking through and doing what we have to do. There's so much more that we can educate ourselves on to bring value into our daily jobs and our lives.
Yeah, I really like that a lot, Susie. I think what I'd like to do is have the Eklund Gomes committee put together a diversity statement. And it's something that I'd like to share with a larger group of people. Maybe it's going to be the executives who run the real estate firms. Maybe it's going to be the team leaders of the big teams across the country. And I think what we can do is, if we craft a diversity statement and share it with a larger group of people, it may likely, I'd be surprised if it didn't, influence the way that they make decisions on hiring and just on their own community building moving forward. I think that that's a really, really good idea, because we've spent now 6 weeks, and I got to say, I'm far more knowledgeable at this part of the process halfway through than I was at the beginning of the process. And I was always passionate about this topic. And I lived my life, as I said, in the color line as a biracial man, but I have truly learned a lot. And I think it would be a waste if we didn't share some of the knowledge that we've all gained as a result of this experience and share it with the right people who ultimately can disperse that same message to more people, because they are the opinion leaders, if you will. And they can share it, if we go to the executives at the top, they can share it with their managers. Each individual management team can share it with their office, and that office can share it with those team leaders, and those team leaders can share it with their team members, and so on and so forth. It can just kind of go through the industry from East Coast to West Coast. So it's a very good one. I like that a lot.
I was thinking alongside with Susie's about fair housing, like a fact sheet, just because I think that we tend to take these fair housing classes and we don't truly understand them, just because it's so much to kind of just digest. So I think that maybe if we get together with the right educators within our industry that do the CE courses and put together kind of like a fact sheet that we can just send to all the different agents and different brokerages, that just makes it easier for us to digest it and really understand it and put forward that, in our day-to-day. I think that would be kind of helpful. I know it would be helpful for me.
Yeah, I think that that's good. And that's something, the more that I think about it, like Susie mentioned the diversity statement, you mentioned the fact sheet. I think what we should probably end up doing after we finish what we're doing here is put together a packet. It's not just about a diversity statement or a fact sheet, but it sounds to me like the solution is for us to come up with a bunch of conclusions to really wrap up what we've been talking about for 8 weeks, and then present those packets to those opinion leaders of those various organizations and leave it up to them to disseminate. But maybe even meet with them perhaps, and have a meeting to kind of review our packet, which we can leave them with hard copy and digital copies so that they can share them, but really try to help, because unfortunately, maybe a lot of them didn't have the opportunity to join the entire series. However, I do want to let everyone know here, if you're joining for the first time, you can go to YouTube, and Eklund Gomes TV does have each one of the first 5 episodes in case you missed any of them, or if you want to go back and look at them. And we will always have those on Eklund Gomes TV, as I said, on YouTube. And you can let your friends know that if they were unable to go to any of those episodes as well. But yes, again, it sounds like we're going to be putting together a packet of information that we can share with people. That's great.
Looks like we have some hands raised. Margula, I think, has her hand raised.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi.
So I just wanted to comment on what I experienced last week after we had the discussion last Wednesday. I took to heart everything that I heard, and it really hurt me how people were saying they couldn't get approved for co-ops, and there was a lot of problem that Black people were even hesitant of even applying for co-ops because of the fear of being rejected based on the color. So that afternoon, John, I actually reached out to a Black buyer whom I'm working with, and before talking to her, I reached out to a building owner that I know personally in Brooklyn, in Crown Heights, who has co-ops, and he asked him, do you have anything available in this price point, what my buyer had? And he did. And I mentioned to him, I said, before I bring it to her, I want to make sure she won't have a problem getting through. And he said, is she financially solvent? I said, yes. And he said, don't worry about it, Margaret. You bring her and I'll make sure that she gets through. And the contracts were sent out. So I just wanted to share that with all of you.
Thank you for sharing that, but I just want to comment. I don't even think that we need to go there, quite frankly. I don't think it's about asking if they would get through, as you said. If they didn't get through and we suspected that it was for discrimination purposes, then that is against fair housing, as you know, and we would report that. So just for the future, let's just all remember, we don't have to ask anyone for permission for anyone who we represent, regardless of the color of their skin, to be accepted into a co-op. And should anyone ever feel as though someone has been denied acceptance into a co-op, no matter where it is or what neighborhood it was in, please let me know. And I guess this is a good opportunity for me to share what I believe is a solution that I'd like to present to the group. I have been thinking, and really it came last week, that I was inspired to think this. I couldn't believe the stories that I was hearing when people were talking about the discrimination that they experienced, the bias, against buyers who are out there and brokers who even might be Black, who are also discriminated against. As you know, the governor has now signed into law, this is now a law, that real estate brokers can and will have their licenses revoked. They will never be able to practice real estate in the state of New York again if they are found to be discriminating against anyone in the process of doing their job. So I was thinking that some people perhaps might be afraid as a real estate broker to report an incident, because it happens and we don't want to lose our license, and I don't want people to be afraid to lose their job or to lose their license just because they're reporting someone who was discriminating against them or one of their customers. So I was thinking as a solution that we could have a hotline, and I'd like to have a hotline where there's like an 800 number or an 888 number, and people who are out there, brokers like ourselves that are out there in the streets, who are experiencing any kind of discrimination whatsoever and want to remain anonymous, but do want to report someone in an experience, could call the hotline. But I think it's important that we do make the Department of State aware that this type of discrimination is going on with this landlord, with that homeowner, with this seller, with this super, with whoever we come in contact with when we experience a discrimination of any kind. Because I think altogether too often, we all sort of brush up, unfortunately, against these circumstances. And if we had established a hotline that started reporting these people, and if there were multiple reports perhaps that came in and complaints from, let's say, a particular landlord, then the state might really take a close look at that individual, or maybe even that broker for all that matter. I don't care who it is. Discrimination is not acceptable at all. And I don't want people to feel that they're afraid to report something. So I think a solution is to come up with a hotline. I don't know how we're going to do this yet or who we report it to and so on and so forth, but I'd like to work through that maybe next week in our session on implementation of some of these solutions. But a hotline would be my idea. And that, you reminded me of that hotline. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Okay. Can I ask you something? Can we use this hotline to report? Is it only for real estate brokers? Just yesterday, a client of mine, a Black woman, was complaining to me that her attorney she's basically discriminated from the white attorney, and she asked me what to do about it. Can this hotline be used for attorneys as well, or is it just for real estate agents?
We're a bit garbled there, Margula, for a while. We couldn't quite hear you.
Could I repeat what I said?
Yes, there was some feedback during the last few sentences of what you said. So if you could repeat.
Sure. So,
and if everyone else could just mute while she's speaking, please.
I'm just asking on John about this hotline, which is an incredible idea. Since of course we don't want to be the ones, the bad people, the ones that are, reporting, and we don't want our names. That's an excellent suggestion. My question is, can this hotline be used for attorneys as well, or is it just exclusively for real estate brokers? Because yesterday afternoon, one of my clients reached out to me, a Black homeowner in Crown Heights, and she was very concerned and upset that her attorney, a white woman, was discriminating and treating her unfairly because of the color of her skin. And she said, what am I supposed to do? So can this hotline be used for attorneys as well to report, or only real estate brokers?
I think John might be having some trouble, but I think that that's a really good question, and we should all discuss it when it comes to implementing, because I don't see why we wouldn't open it to the whole community.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
Sorry guys, I'm back. It's John. I had some technical difficulties. I last heard you asking if this was something that would be for brokers or attorneys. Again, it's an idea. Today is all about presenting solutions, and it's an idea and a roundtable discussion. Next week is going to be focused more on implementation. So again, it's an idea. I think that it should include everyone and anyone who would like to report, but we'll work on the logistics of it in the implementation part of the series next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joel, are you out there?
Yes. Hi, everyone. This is Juan Gonzalez. I just want to follow up on a question earlier of what can we do for some recommendations, proposals, getting involved in your community. There's a lot of movements that's going on, and the more you can get involved in your community, the better. And I'll give an example. My hometown of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, who has a bad record of discrimination with police harassment. The community is coming together, and I helped form a community organization, and there was a lot of talk of protesting happen there. So instead of having a protest, we went to try and engage city officials and police on coming up with a list of demands or changes that we want. That's anti-discrimination, anti-racial harassment. And we've been meeting about 1 to 2 every 2 weeks with the chief of police and the city officials to come up with some solutions. And one of the solutions we're looking at is a community review board. That would be a civilian oversight committee that would be involved in police investigations that are around racial harassment and discrimination. So those are some things that, as folks are, you're educated, and from these webinars, you're gaining a lot of knowledge. How do you give back in the communities that you live in, this knowledge that you're gaining here, to be more of a, help when you talk about being like anti-racist, right? Like, how could you be truly anti-racist, use this information that you're learning to give back to your community and get involved in some of these movements that are happening? So that's just my suggestion. And there's more and more that's going to be popping up in places where you live. So don't be afraid, jump in, get involved, volunteer. And I'm sure there's a lot of insight that you all could bring as you're learning through these sessions.
Yeah, Junior, you make a really good point. And I was talking about this to the committee a little bit earlier today on a call that we had. And, I was sort of feeling a little bit sad because we're coming into, this is week 6 and we only had 8 weeks. And I just thought to myself, wow, what are we going to do with all this information and all this knowledge when we're done? And I thought, we don't ever have to let go of it. Just because we're not going to have this series every Wednesday at 2:30 doesn't mean that we don't have to share everything that we learned. And like we talked about earlier in this call, we're going to put together a packet. We're going to disseminate this information. We're going to talk to leaders within our industry. Remember, for us personally, this was really about a focus that was a narrow focus on the real estate industry itself. And again, I remind everyone, the reason why we did that is because this discrimination thing is like insane. I mean, it's everywhere, and everywhere you go. It's in every inch of our lives, unfortunately. And we just decided we needed to focus on our industry because that's just the focus that we wanted to have, hoping that other people in different industries of fashion and finance and so on and so forth would be doing much of the same. Now, not to say, of course, that we can't do this in our industry and people won't hear about it. And maybe people will contact us from other industries and say, hey, we heard about what you did and you're having an impact. How can we do that? Can you help us set up our series so that we can affect change within our own industry? I hope that that happens. But yes, you use the C word again, Junior, community. It really is about all of us. We all live in community. So if we could all just take back the messages that we've learned in this series to our communities would be a lot better.
I think we have another one from Alex. Hand raised. Alex, you have your hand raised?
We'll come back to Alex.
Yeah.
We'll come back to Alex.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he goes.
Was it me?
Yeah, you were.
Was it me, Alex?
Yeah.
I mean, John mentioned, I think it's an absolutely fantastic idea. And racism is a learned behavior.
It's the difficult thing about Zooming, right? This reception thing is just terrible. I wonder if he's calling from California. I mean, that Los Angeles, we got to get some cell towers out there. It seems like
am I heard now? Am I heard now? Yes.
We hear you now.
No, I just want to chime in. I love the idea of the hotline, but I think we need to change, obviously, learned ugly behavior from people, because if you put a white and black baby together, they'll play together. It's just an ugly learned behavior from upbringing for a lot of people. And I think, the combination of one, agents knowing that there is this hotline, I think they'll think twice about doing this ugly behavior, but in combination with also advertising that we need to change our way of thought. What I always loved in New York City was the diversity and the beautiful thing of people coming from all over the world, and the beauty of that. And it's a combination of sort of advertising. Then one, you can get freaking punished for behaving like this, but then also how freaking wrong it is of people behaving like this. And it just holds mankind back from moving forward and, you know, getting along. So I love the idea of the hotline. I love the idea of bringing that into then lawyers and other parts too, and just blast as big as possible, because when people know they can get punished, and especially get to know how wrong their behavior is, I think it will slowly start changing.
Yes,
Behave in the right way.
I agree, and thank you so much for that suggestion, Alex. Ellis, do we have any hands raised, or otherwise somebody on the committee can give their...
Heather
Yep.
Rui.
Hi guys, thanks again for doing this. We love hearing it every week. Love the hotline video. But was just thinking, you know, the hotline is, I love the idea. As soon as you said it, I was writing in the chat, but you know, there's also kind of the thing where people are unintentionally being discriminatory. And I think we can also like look to our boards for more on that, to like encourage people to say, like, you can't say that, you can't do that. Like, and so that people don't, I don't think people always feel confident. I mean, even just, you know, sometimes you get dinged for language in your descriptions that's discriminatory and you didn't realize it was on the list, and it makes you feel like you're not confident, you don't know what's okay and what's not. And so, you know, I don't think it would be bad for the boards to have like little videos and stuff on their website, like how to be anti-racist, with like role-playing stuff that we all encounter to give people more confidence in calling things out.
Yes, I really like that idea a lot, actually. It's super sweet. Like, as you were saying it, I could almost see like a little graphic video that somebody did, like a 15-second type of a video that just showed someone, you know, maybe the difference between like a racist and an anti-racist, you know, just to kind of get that point across. I could totally see little shorts like that. That's a very good idea.
Now that everybody wants to be moving in this direction, you know, sometimes confidence is what it's all about too, if they know what is okay and what isn't and how to approach each other.
It's true. You're absolutely right. It's a great suggestion.
You know, to piggyback on that, we can bring in speakers to educate people as well, to educate agents on anti-racism, you know, anti-racism training and implicit bias, or just business diversification. I think that would be a great way to kind of open people's minds as well.
Yes.
Solutions.
Yeah. And I like that suggestion too. And at the same time, I want to try to, you know, what frustrates me is that people like us, and there's a lot of us, thank God, the numbers keep growing on this call, but we were the ones that would attend those types of seminars. And we're trying to get our message to the people who are not on this call and the people who wouldn't attend those seminars. So somehow I think creatively in the solutions that we come up with, we have to always keep in mind, know your audience. I always say that to all of our agents, right? When you're showing, know your audience, know the person who you're trying to sell the home to before you try to sell the home. Because we got to get this message somehow to that audience of people who's not going to be on this call and who's not going to attend those types of seminars. So let's always remember that too.
I can kind of just piggyback on John's point if everyone can hear me clearly. And Heather, thank you for that comment. I think it's a great idea as well. I guess what I was thinking is, you know, is this either going to be a movement or a moment? And as John kind of alluded to at the beginning of this call, now that things have kind of left the headlines, it almost feels like it was a moment. So in terms of applying this to our industry, I think that the conversation really needs to be integrated, especially at the local level. And by that, I mean, when you're having your weekly team meetings, I think there needs to be firsthand accounts of what's right and what's not right, not because you're going to suffer the consequences, but as Alex earlier pointed out, it's about right and wrong. So, you know, you don't want to be inappropriate or anything of that nature, but, you know, you don't want to do it in just for the reason of losing your license. You want to do it in a way that is you know, appropriate.
Yeah, agreed. Well said, Stephen. You know,
I think the onus on that is really on the managers as well. So maybe when we write that letter, John, to the big firms, I think managers should see it as well, just so we can
Oh, no.
integrate it.
Absolutely. It's something that, again, I think that we'll all put together, the content, and I will write a letter on all of our behalf. And I think that it's something that I would send not only to the executives who are running these real estate companies, but also to the managers of each individual office so that we can share with them, and hopefully they will disseminate with their teams of people who they work with on a daily basis. And by the way, I'm not going to stop. I said this before. I'm not stopping. So I would love if you guys could like stand with me and be with me. This is not a moment for me, regardless of what other people may view it as. I'm not letting go of this. For as long as I continue to experience racism in this industry, I'm going to be standing up on a soapbox and I'm going to be spreading the word. I am actually having a call after this with some of you, as you know, about merch, because we're going to have t-shirts made and mugs made and all of that we're also going to be disseminating to people. And this is going to be stuff that's going to be sitting on people's shelves. People are going to be drinking coffee on their desks with these Black Lives Matter Eklund Gomes series mugs. And I'm going to be wearing t-shirts, and so will you guys. It's not going away. This is definitely, I think, the movement of our times, not a moment in time, as I've said before.
Next, we'll go to Eric, who sent his solutions in this week. Eric, you've got the floor.
As soon as I figure out how to unmute. Hi, guys. I have a thought, and I also just wanted to circle back to the seminar thing. My company, it's a bank, so 96 required trainings a year, and I'm not exaggerating, and diversity and inclusion was added. It's a requirement now, and I'm not implying in any way that requiring someone to take a course is the necessarily best way to reach everyone. But I know, given everybody that I'm looking at in this group, you can certainly demand it of Elliman to, at a minimum, make a required training that everybody has to at least listen to go somewhere. And then as far as my solution for our industry, inclusion is the general theme we're all circling around. So to candidly add the small thing that I believe I can do is we are allowed an associate when we reach a certain level of production, and I have one now who was given to me because we're going through this current circumstance. So it's whoever was available within the company is all I was able to take. The next time I reach the next level and can hire an additional person, I can certainly look to the community and try to hire a Black person to bring more Black people into banking. Candidly, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought I was doing anybody a favor by bringing them into my business. I feel very differently about it now, and that's my personal goal. And I think something we can all look at is how can you hire and bring in more people to create success for those people, and not just to create the elite successful people, but people with my level of success who can now go back to their communities and create influence and do all of the things that we all hope to do.
Eric, I love what you're saying. And it's funny because another one of my solutions was sort of similar in some ways. It's, and you know, that person that you would be bringing in, it sounds like they would be younger and they wouldn't have so much experience, but you'd be giving them an opportunity to learn. And all we need, all of us, is an opportunity to learn in an industry from someone like yourself who continues to do well and reach the next milestone level in your career. And you bring in that person who, yes, might be a Black person. And that person might be given an opportunity that otherwise maybe they didn't have the opportunity to have. I keep thinking, as part of the solution, I think that we need to focus on younger people. There are a lot of older people in our industry. And look, unfortunately, and I don't discriminate against age, race, sexuality, or anything. Let me make myself very clear. However, unfortunately, I have found in my experience and in my research and what I've learned on this committee, a lot of the discriminatory practices are coming from people who are older. And I thought about that long and hard. And I thought, the younger generation is just far more open-minded than some of the older generation. And I think that we need to consider that, and we need to find a way to bring younger people into the industry because maybe those younger people can help inspire anyone else who's working in the industry with their ideas. We need to reach a point where we have enough people who are working in the real estate industry who think the way that we are thinking. We need to go out to high schools and we need to promote to younger people who are graduating to come and work into real estate. Or we need to go to colleges and universities where there are programs where people today are getting degrees at places like NYU in real estate. We need a fresh, new perspective of younger thinkers, because more of those younger thinkers are more open-minded and less discriminatory toward people. And that's just something that I'm thinking about as a solution. I haven't fully flushed it out, and I was wondering what you guys think about that. And by the way, as I say it, I want to also admit I'm like a little bit uncomfortable sharing it because I'm trying to be diplomatic and I'm not trying to be discriminatory toward an age group like older people. Because let me make myself clear, I'm not saying all older people, and by the way, I consider myself an older person as I approach 50. I am not discriminating against people like myself who are older, but it is true that I find a higher incidence of discrimination in an older age group as opposed to younger. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I agree. I think that mindset, you know, in the older generation has been ingrained. And that's the reason why we kind of have to look forward to our younger generation and really, like Alex said, racism is a learned behavior, right? So we can now kind of use our younger individuals to kind of change that going forward. So yeah, I agree with you, John.
Because I want to make clear, you know, I said before in one of these past weeks, Frederick, Julia, and I did this ourselves. As we expanded, we felt that we had the opportunity and a platform to make a difference and to make a change. And we brought in younger agents who are Black, yes. And we did that because we wanted to have that younger energy. We wanted to have Black people who were coming in.
Are you calling me?
We wanted to have Black people who were coming
I'm here.
in.
I'm on that conference.
Sorry. We wanted to have Black people who were coming in because we wanted to have other younger people see people like people on our team, because we know that we are visible and we know that we have a platform, we know that we have a reach, and we wanted to inspire other young Black people to enter the industry so that they could see someone who looked like them that was working on a successful top team. That was our idea, and I strongly stand by it. And I think that it is going to have an impact over time. I certainly hope so.
I just wanted to say, Eric, you know, I really do appreciate, you know, you being candid about what you said about, you know, being just a little bit more aware, or, you know, about who you bring in going forward, because in the past that was not something that really you thought about. And I think it's important because, you know, everybody wants opportunity at the end of the day in order to be able to push forward and succeed. And it's up to us, you know, the people that are in the position to give that opportunity, whether you're white, Black, Spanish, whatever, to do that for everyone. So I do appreciate you being candid and what you said. And I just wanted to just make that note.
Thank you. I'll add, not that I want to harp on this, but you know what you know, and you know who's available to you. And of course, now I consider all of you guys my friends, have long before this was ever long before we were focusing on this issue. That's my small contribution. So when the time comes, I'll ask for resumes, and anybody who knows somebody looking for an opportunity, my door's open.
I'll have them ready.
Thanks.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, to Janet and John and Eric's point, I think the recruitment idea is great. What really stood out to me, John, is when you mentioned high schools and universities. I guess for me, you know, the first thing, you know, we want to do when we're having these conversations is acknowledge there's a problem. Unfortunately, I think too many times, you know, we don't acknowledge there's a problem, which is the very first step. You know, we don't want to hire someone just because they're Black. I don't want that to be the thought. The reason that we're seeking someone who is Black is because they're historically disenfranchised in a lot of these industries, which I think kind of takes us to visibility. And if I can share this. I actually knew who John Gomes was before I knew who Frederick Eklund was through a little show called Selling New York on HGTV. And that was just before. And that was just before I got in the industry. I'd always been interested in real estate. And if I can be quite frank, I never really saw anyone who looked like me. And to see that on national television was so huge and so encouraging. So John, I just want to thank you for, there aren't many Black agents on television. Not that television's the only medium, but I think visibility in media is a huge thing as well. But I do love the idea of strong recruiting and diversity and inclusion.
Stephen, so this is so funny, but that first episode that I did of that, I did the first year, and then Frederick got the call from Bravo, so we moved to a different firm, and the rest was history. But yes, I did do a show called Selling New York. It is still, by the way, on Hulu, plug. I just want to say the first episode of Selling New York on HGTV was my client, John Legend, who's my client and my friend. And he caught wind of us doing this, and we started communicating, and he just said to me, John, thank you, thank you, thank you. A person like yourself, with the amount of exposure that you have to a wide audience, you doing what you're doing and taking time out of your busy schedule to do this just fills my heart. And it was so nice to hear that, here we have yet another Black Lives Matter fan for this series that we're doing, and it just made me feel so good. He recommended a book. Ellis, I know that you're in front of a computer. I want to make sure that I get this right, because I did actually get the book and I started reading it, but I think it's called The Color of Law. You could look up that book and see if that's a book, The Color of Law. It's a really, really good book that talks about, real estate and issues with racism in our world. Is it The Color of Law?
Yes, that's the name of it. The Color of Law, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America.
Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, it's mind-blowing, this book. I started flipping through it. The Color of Law, I can highly recommend it. Know that it comes as a recommendation from John Legend that he shared with me, and I'm happy to share it with all of you guys. So Stephen, thank you for reminding me of that show, because I wouldn't have thought of John and that nice note that he wrote me last week. Get the book, guys, Color of Law. Has anybody raised their hand?
Ella, are you on the roundtable? Nope, she must have dropped off. Anyone else on the panel?
I'd like to jump in. I'm reading these comments that we're getting, and thank you guys all for sending these. I think one of the, because we don't want to put people in categories, but one of the descriptors that I think we should all strive for is just openness. And I think, John, I've seen a lot of the responses, the negative responses that we've gotten when we send out our evites for this event. And a lot of them just feel so defensive, like as if we're attacking that person and blaming them and saying that this problem is their fault. And it's like, we have to remove that defensiveness in order to allow us to look in the mirror and see, like, maybe there are things I'm doing that I could change. Maybe there are things I'm doing that are, I'm assuming things about people that I should remove that. The point of all this, and you all are here, so the assumption is that you get that already, but it's how can I do better, and how can I be brave enough to speak up? And that's what a lot of our conversation has been. It can't just be Black voices speaking up. It has to be that if I see something, someone's using language that could be, misconstrued or come across as racially charged, I have to have that responsibility to call that out. And everyone should feel brave enough to do that. And, there is risk there. You might piss off a client, but we have to know that this is the fight worth fighting, and to just be open to having, like, not a, we don't want anyone to feel attacked. That's why this is there's no judgment here. It's just about, well, let's just talk about how what you said may have come across this way.
Susie, I could not agree with you more. And it's something that all of the greatest leaders of our time who've been fighting this battle for quite some time have said. It's like silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented, right? Silence encourages the tormentor. Yes, never the tormented. Correct. That was Elie Wiesel, by the way. But it's all about, you can't be silent. If you see something, say something. And I think that's the reason why we have this systemic racism that's been around for so long, is that people just allow it. And I guess, again, that goes back into the definition of racism versus anti-racism, right? It's easy for everyone to say, oh no, I'm not racist. I have a black friend. I have this, I have that. I don't discriminate against people. But are you anti-racist? Do you stand up against racism of all kind and against all people? And in order to answer that positively, you must, in any instance that you hear or see or witness any racist act, step up, stand up, say something. That's the only way we're going to get people to realize you can't get away with that in this society. I am a member of a society and I don't accept your actions. I reject them. That's an anti-racist, right? So that's what we need to, we need to fill the world with anti-racists. If there's one thing that I would like to accomplish by this series, is helping people understand the difference between those two, because we need more anti-racist in this world.
Yeah, I think Susie and John, you guys are absolutely right. And while you were speaking, I kind of thought of something else that, brokerage is our business and the vast majority of folks in here, but, I've had many side conversations with several of the panelists about kind of the investment side of real estate. And I think an interesting tidbit is that the Peoples Corporation, headed by Don Peebles, is launching a $500 million fund to invest in women and minority developers. And a lot of the problem and a lot of the lack of minority or Black developers in existence is, I think, the access to capital. So if anyone wanted to kind of touch on that, because I think it's a great thing to kind of diversify, especially in that field. As someone who's looking to invest myself and, perhaps dabble in the development side. I know, Janet, you and I have had these conversations. So I just think it's really interesting and kind of a topic we haven't really delved into yet.
Stephen, Don Peebles is a great man and a good friend. I would love to make a personal introduction to him for you. And I've done a lot of work with him. And he's just one of my heroes. He's somebody that I truly, truly look up to. He is, in my opinion, the pioneer in our industry. He is the one man who has been fighting against this issue for a very long time. He has been standing up for equal rights for Black people for a very, very long time. And I just want to say I respect and admire him for the work that he's doing, and thank him, because he's really the one who got this all started before any Black Lives Matter, was even conceived. Don Peebles has been fighting for equality and racism and in the world of finance for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible thing he's doing, which is really admirable.
Yep, 100% I agree. Ellis, I just want to make sure that we have everyone else on the panel that had their hand raised, or did we get to all of the individuals that sent in their statements ahead of time?
Gotten to everyone who submitted their statements. There's a few, it looks like one that dropped off. Arana, are you on?
Arana is on, so maybe you could unmute Arana. Arana, I know that you're out there because I just saw the comment. Can you let us know if you're trying to speak, but you are not able to speak because we can't hear you?
I am, hi, I've got a
There
mask.
you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Arana.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry, I have a mask and a hat on. I'm at the office, so it's difficult.
No worries.
Okay, but I'm very, very interested in this program. It's fabulous.
Oh, thank you so much. We
I think
appreciate
it's
that.
very important what you're doing, John.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm just so glad that, look, it's not that I'm doing this. This is something that was brought to my attention by my team members, and we collectively did this or are doing this. And then we didn't know if anybody would actually be interested in what we had to say. So all of us that are here now are doing this. And I just feel so energized. It makes me feel so good. Because like I said, I felt so bad for so many years working in this industry and feeling like I was slighted or just hearing certain things and just in the back of my mind thinking certain things too. You know, as we said last week about co-ops and, you know, discrimination and Black people not even applying, just all those things. I was going to say small things, but they're really not so small. But over the years, all those things have sort of bothered me. So I'm so grateful that there are more people that are thinking like I am. And that we're collectively together coming up with these solutions. Thank you for being a part of it.
I grew up in a town called Richmond, California. And one side of the street was Black and one side of the street was white in the high school. And never the twain did meet. You just didn't dare do it. There was a 4 o'clock curfew. This was all around the time of Martin Luther King's assassination. So it's all very prescient to me. I live in Orange County now, which is not, which is very homogeneous, but yeah, I have a heart for this for sure.
Thank you. By the way, we just opened an office in Orange County in Laguna
I
Beach.
saw that.
We're super excited to be in your area. It's really so beautiful. You have some of the most beautiful beaches in all of California.
We do. We have, that's why I moved from Northern California. I keep going south.
Yes.
But it is beautiful here. And I saw that you opened, which is very exciting. I hope whatever you put together, I hope you bring to Berkshire Hathaway.
Yes, 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 we will, for sure. We're going to be bringing this to all of the, every single solitary agency. We're going to be working, we have a list already of, you know, many of the agencies across the country, but we will be putting this together and we'll put together a very good list. And, you know, at the very least, we'll be putting together a digital packet that we will be able to send to everyone that sort of sums up everything that we've been doing. And of course, remember, all of these episodes are found on Eklund Gomes' channel at YouTube, remember, and you can share that with people as well.
Okay, oh, great, thank you.
We'll hop to Bridget. Bridget?
Hi, everybody. It's Bridget Harvey. First of all, I want to thank all of you for organizing this and for the research and the vulnerability that you've given. It's been truly incredible. And so thank you for that. I also wanted to say 8 weeks ago now, I decided that any day I was going to spend money, I was going to pay a Black person. I think that money is important to most of us, and just choosing to buy Black, choosing to hire Black, choosing to pay Black people has been really interesting to me, how difficult that is in my everyday life. That any day I spend money, I have been buying Black. And I challenge you all to give that a whirl and see what that's like for you. See, you know, just open yourself up to new businesses, but also just the exercise of making sure that every day you spend money, you're spending money with Black people. It's a really eye-opening exercise.
That's amazing.
Love that.
Can I just also add something to that? I think it's amazing and it's powerful, and I love what you said, and I love that you shared it with people. And even if you don't have so much money to spend, I just want to encourage everyone to smile at a Black person today. I think so often, you know, we underestimate the value of a smile or just a nice kind gesture or a hello, because I think sometimes
Black people, they're so used to getting a cold shoulder in this society, and they're so used to people being mean to them so often. And a lot of people don't necessarily mean to do it, but they are nonetheless. So I think if everyone could just start smiling more, and maybe intentionally smiling at a Black person that you might pass on the street, and just giving them your love with your eyes, don't underestimate how powerful that can be. And it's free. You know what they say? You've seen people out there with signs, hugs are free. Well, smiles are even more free than hugs, because you don't have to touch people in this Corona time. So smile, please.
Amen to that. And thank you, Bridget. I wanted to just say this is something that, you know, I've been really passionate about. We've been creating a list of Black vendors so that, you know, even when it's time to give gifts, and just to add to what she's saying, the reason why buying Black has been a focal point, it's not the easiest thing because you do have to do extra research, but it is the only way that the money gets recirculated in the Black community. And when we start talking about equality and all of, you know, leveling the playing field, when that money gets recirculated into the Black community, we get to possibly have the road to wealth as well. So thank you, Bridget, for that. And I have a list and we could share it. We've all been working on our list of, as you know, I think Beyonce called it the Black Parade, but we have our list.
Well, I love this, and I love knowing that we have a list, and I'm just thinking, the holidays are right around the corner, so I'd like to see that list, because I would love nothing more than to spend that big budget that we have in our Eklund Gomes budget annually for holiday gifts. I would love nothing more than to support 100% Black-owned businesses. And we'll put a card together sharing that to let people know, so that maybe we can inspire others to do the same. I love this recommendation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Love it. We have a couple minutes left. We'll hop to Tina Cameron. Tina?
Hi, I'm calling in from Santa Monica, California, and I'm with Compass. And I haven't heard it mentioned, maybe you guys have already talked about it, but the using 15%, it's the 15% pledge. And Compass signed on to that right away, Robert Refkin. That's where, because as realtors, we recommend, you know, photographers and painters and plumbers and all kinds of vendors. And so to make sure that 15% of what you refer is to Black-owned or Black vendors. And we've created a list within our vendor list, within our Compass, I think it's all over the country, where you can actually sign on to that list to find a vendor. So I've both nominated vendors that I was already using because, again, not just because they're Black, but because they're fabulous and fabulous to work with. But that's another, just another avenue.
There's also an app, there's also an app on Instagram called Eat Okra, and it has that pledge, and it guides you also if you're looking for more vendors as well.
Tina, if you could share that list with us as well, that would be great. Because I think that that's something that we had spoken about on the panel, about incorporating, obviously, like onto our own team.
Yeah, I'll have to find out because it's within Compass. So when we're in our internal, I'm 65, I'm getting on board with all the technology because Compass is so, they only purchased us, I don't know, a year ago or something. But I don't know if we can share it outside our company, but if we can, I will.
Well, maybe you said that you've worked with a few people, so maybe you want to share, you know, your personal list with us.
Are you in Los Angeles?
Say that again?
Are you in Los Angeles?
Oh, well, we have a team in Los Angeles.
He is not, but I am.
But Stephen is. I am not, but Stephen is. And we have our team out there.
Covered in one city. Guys, it is now 3:30. This has been a really good conversation and a great roundtable. I want to thank everyone for joining us for our 6th week in the series. And I do want to encourage everybody to come back next week for week number 7 in the series, where we're going to talk about how we implement the solutions that we talked about today. Thank you guys so much. I love you as always. And until next time, same station, next week, 3:30. Bye.